Spence. Nigga, where am I going? Drop the four in my cup, now I'm floating. I can't feel a thing, to be real, I just go through the motions. Where am I going? Nigga, I'm in deep like the ocean. I've been in my bag, everybody around me, I'm ghosting. Where am I going? Drop the four in my cup, now I'm floating. I can't feel a thing, to be real, I just go through the motions. Where am I going?
We are going to another episode of HardFoul Radio. This is the show that values God and, values time and puts God first. It's been a week, but we are back. Appreciate everybody for joining, as always, and let's get into it. Obviously, it's divisional week in the NFL, so that's where we got to start. A lot of times, and both of these first two topics are very narrative and media driven, unfortunately, and that's where we start to lose the plot. I truly believe when the headline of a game is more about the media headline or the media narrative versus what was put on the field, we've lost the plot. So we're going to talk about two teams here. And I said this on group chat, and I've said this on here a bunch. I believe the top two quarterbacks in the NFL are Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Lamar's going to be a three-time MVP. Patrick Mahomes is already a three-time champion. They are by far and away, and this is no disrespect to Josh Allen, this is no disrespect to Joe Burrow, this is no disrespect to anyone who you think is on that list, but they are by far, out of current contemporaries of quarterbacks, by far the most accomplished. Three-time MVP, one's got 3 rings. But let's go ahead and talk about these two teams, because no one actually wants to talk about it. The first part is the Chiefs, and Mahomes is a part of this. The Chiefs, no one wants to really be honest about it, which it felt like the Texans kind of were trying to be honest about it, but the reality is when you lose a game and you complain about something, it comes off more sore loser than actual valid criticism. But I think everybody, including other NFL players and professional athletes, feel the same way about the Chiefs, which is that it's not just that they're great, because we all understand they are. I'm talking about the greatness of the quarterback. We're not talking about the greatness of the tight end. We're not talking about the greatness of their defense or their head coach. We're discussing referees. And Chiefs fans can say what they want and say, oh, everyone complains that just because we're winning. Yeah, that's kind of true, but not really. Hear me out. You know what the NBA never really wanted? They never, and not that they'll ever admit this, the NBA never really wanted the James Harden play style to win a title. The foul baity, the let me get up a bunch of shots, try to influence the refs. They never really wanted that to be the thing that was the best thing going in the game. They much prefer when it's someone like LeBron, who you can highlight his athleticism, his skill set. When it's Steph, oh my gosh, look how great of a shooter he is. The NBA would never publicly tell you they wish James Harden never won a title, or hope James Harden would never win a title, but they secretly didn't really want it. You don't want someone who is putting referee manipulation, which all great athletes do, which all great teams do, but you don't want someone who puts that on display as flagrantly as James Harden did, or even in some regards as SGA does and other guys throughout NBA history. Mahomes has elevated. It's not just, we all understood when Brady and Manning were playing, they got calls, other guys didn't. We all understand great players get calls that other guys don't. Great corners get to hold a little bit better. Great offensive linemen get away with some holding. Some great pass rushers get away with offsides. We all know that exists, but that's not their story, nor is it continuously and routinely the biggest takeaway from their games. And Mahomes and the Chiefs, we are consistently in this stretch of flag, impactful game, and he has evolved, Mahomes has, to outright referee manipulation, because he's aware of what the rules are. And everybody does their own little gimmicks and their own little performance when it comes to referees, and everyone does their own thing to, again, all athletes do it. But they don't want that to be the central focus of what is the biggest show or the biggest part of their entertainment and the biggest part of their sport. They didn't want James Harden ref manipulating his way to 20 free throws. The same way they met future whatever you want. And when Mahomes is out there and he's intentionally not running out of bounds because he knows the guys aren't allowed to hit him because it's a flag. And if he just holds on long enough and slowly walks his way out, he can inherently pick up extra yards. He can inherently flop for a penalty when he does these really late slides, which he's been doing consistently. Excuse me. This is not just you hit the quarterback really hard and because it looked bad, the NFL has to overreact and throw flags. That was Brady. That was Manning. You don't want these $50 million a year quarterbacks going down because someone ran them over at 100 miles an hour. But you also don't want the best quarterback in your sport, the dynasty of your league, the biggest product on television, to be sitting there going, you know what? I'm going to play ref manipulation. I'm going to cheat this extra yard because I know they can't hit me. And you put these defenders in these positions where, what do you want them to do? Again, I said this with the Bronco-Buffalo game, and Josh Allen even realized it. Josh Allen threw a pass. Brandon Jones and the running back hit each other at the same time, and the refs had to go, yeah, sorry, but we got to throw the flag. And even Josh Allen put his hand on his head and went, oh my gosh, I just threw a medicine ball, a ball that I know was going to get my guy hurt because of the position that I threw it and where the defender was. That doesn't exist in Kansas City. In fact, they implore it because Mahomes is playing to these rules that he knows is there to protect him. Like the rule, yes, we want to protect quarterbacks, but you don't want to do it to the point of you are just taking away from what other guys are doing. And all the Chief players just get around and go, yeah, throw the flag, throw the flag, throw the flag, which they're supposed to do. That's their teammate. But the NFL doesn't want that to be a part of their story. Mahomes, where he started, 50 touchdowns, first year starting, MVP, electric offense, multiple time Super Bowl champion, first team to ever potentially go for a three-peat. That stuff should be exciting. That stuff, there was a difference at one point between how people felt about the Chiefs and how people felt about the Patriots. And I know any team that wins, you will automatically invite haters. We understand that. I'm a hater. But that doesn't mean there's a difference between hating and respecting. The other teams, during the time Brady was great, the other great teams, the Colts could compete with Tom. And they got some of the same benefits. You couldn't hit their quarterback the same way you couldn't hit Tom. When the Broncos were competing with Tom towards the end of Peyton's career and towards the almost end of Brady's career, Brady ended up playing for still almost another decade. It was crazy. There were similar rules they both had to play by because we all understood, okay, you got to protect the quarterback, but there was things you could do. Mahomes is now just taking advantage of that the way Harden did, the way guys take advantage of the strike zone and umpires. And sports don't want that to be at the forefront. Does it happen? Obviously. But that's not what they want. We should be celebrating this team, this historic achievement, even if people hate because fan base, that draws popularity too. That's ratings too, hoping to watch them lose. But when you have people who either hate watching them to lose or people that are watching because they want to see greatness, and the greatness is then turned into, oh, how many flags are we going to throw in a game? How many great plays or good plays can a defense make to attempt to stop the greatness and then just have a flag thrown on them? And they're at key critical situations. They're on third downs, extending drives. The NFL doesn't want this, and realistically, the Chiefs shouldn't want this. But their star player, the best quarterback in the NFL, he's flag baiting. And there's nothing else you can say about it. And that becomes, again, to the point, what happens on the field should be what is celebrated, not just narratives and headlines. But you can't even celebrate what's on the field when all that it can create is a narrative or headline, and that is the refs throwing flags. Flag manipulation, ref manipulation. And that's bad for the NFL. And the NFL is huge, and the NFL is too big to fail, and the NFL is so far and away ahead of the other leagues that it's got really no competition. But if you ever want to talk about rigged, and I know we just saw a ref go over to Josh Allen and apologize last week. But even with that, Josh Allen does not come off as not saying he doesn't get calls, because all-star quarterbacks get calls, but he's not manipulating them. He's not, when Josh Allen gets hit, he's not getting up waiting to see who's ref going to call some. No, he establishes himself as a runner, which Mahomes does too, but he's a bigger guy, and he's running, and he takes the hits, and he bounces off. You want to talk about rigged? You want to see a quote-unquote rigged game? Watch how the game next week is reffed. Watch how it's reffed. Josh Allen, who's more popular to watch at the moment, who's a bigger draw even than Mahomes, even with all the... And Mahomes is better. But what people want to see isn't ref manipulation. James Harden was better than 99% of the league. People didn't like watching him. And that's a real thing. Moving on to Lamar Jackson, who I think is the second best quarterback in the NFL. Tony and I are going to talk about this a bit later when he joins us in the show. MVP level-esque quarterback and thrower of the football. And then we got Lamar, who eclipsed both of them. But because he's eclipsed both of them, he is now in this new territory of not that he can do no wrong, but that he can almost do no right due to his greatness. Listen, and I said, again, when we're not discussing what's on the field, but we're going with narratives, we've lost the plot of sports. The amount of people I saw yesterday who are on networks or on YouTube, have their own podcast, etc., that all they couldn't wait to do was say, Lamar lost, time to slander for 12 more months until we can get back to this game. All right, Lamar lost, time to criticize him 12 more months until we get back to this game. That's nasty. It just is. There's no other way around it. And let's be serious for a second. This is why I say Lamar can almost do no right. If you have Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in the backfield, what's the correct play? Is it a throw? Well, it could be, because you have the 3-time MVP at quarterback and you have Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews. Or is it a run, because you have Derrick Henry, a Hall of Fame running back, best running back of his generation? Is it a read option, because you have both, and it's probably the best play in football is Lamar, Derrick Henry, RPO? What is it? These people that wanted to attack John Harbaugh and the coaching staff, and these people that want to play, couch coach, there's no correct play with Lamar, because every play not only has the potential to be successful, every play has the potential to go to the house. Lamar could scramble on a 50-yard touchdown. He could throw a 50-yard bomb. He's got a tight end who can hit across the field. He's got a Hall of Fame running back who can take it 80 yards to the house. There is no play that can't be made to a level that is different than almost everybody else. And it's just hit the line of it's just unfair. And I understand. Lamar barely gets the wild card round. He's had multiple byes in his career. So we're punishing him because he doesn't get to play these weaker seeded teams like Josh Allen does? That doesn't seem fair to me. That doesn't seem correct to me. And then we're going to criticize him because this run only went for 4 yards or this drive stalled out. Well, we know the potential is there for anything they do on offense. Almost always guarantee a first round, or almost always guarantee being able to score touchdowns. So we're going to punish him for his greatness. And let's even look at Josh Allen, the guy who beat him yesterday. Josh didn't have a quote-unquote great game. And what we thought about Josh coming into this year as a majority is that he spends too much time trying to be Superman, and we need to scale him back. And now that he has scaled back and is somehow doing less, but also now doing more, which is the basis of his MVP argument, we can uplift Josh Allen and criticize Lamar. Again, Lamar had the bad fumble. Lamar had the bad pick. Those things are valid. And did it lose them that specific game yesterday? Yeah. But be honest with yourself. If you're one of those people that were lurking around, waiting to criticize Lamar, waiting to say something negative about him, you were going to do that whether he had the iconic Mahomes-Allen game in the division round from a couple years ago, or if he had the game he had yesterday with the 2 turnovers. If that game was 35-33 and the Ravens lost, you guys would all come out here and said, look at Lamar, he's 0-4 against the other big quarterbacks in the playoffs. Let the play on the field be the storyline. Yes, sports media has exploded. Sports media is huge. Everyone's got to get topics for their shows. But let's let it be about the actual content. Let's let it be about what we're actually all watching. Not just my time to get off a hot take, my time to create a headline. It's just annoying. With that being said, we did start late today, but we still got a lot of stuff here to talk about. Excuse me. The Commanders, Jaden Daniels, incredible season. Can't say enough nice things about him. And a new-ish topic that we're bringing in. Be serious. That and a lot more to discuss. Again, Tony is dropping by. It is Monday. This is HardFoul Radio. We'll be back momentarily. But we are back. Appreciate everybody for joining as always, and let's get into it. Obviously, it's divisional week in the NFL, so that's where we got to start. A lot of time. And we are back. We are having to move a little quicker here just because we did start late. So Washington is in the NFC Championship game, and it's to me the biggest win of the weekend. It was the biggest upset of the weekend, them beating the Detroit Lions. It was incredible. I thought the Lions were going to get up really big in that game really early on. I know the Lions defense is really injured, but the Commanders defense just is not very good, injuries or not. I thought the Lions are going to get up early, and Ben Johnson was going to start showing off. And, I mean, he got hired today anyway, so maybe it all worked out in the end. What Jaden Daniels is doing is just incredible. So, if you haven't seen the stat yet, he's the first rookie quarterback to make a conference championship game whose defense isn't top 5 rated. So, all the other guys to do it, Sanchez, Flacco, Roethlisberger, all top 5 defenses. His defense is 28. So, he's not just getting to the conference championship game. He did it with by far the worst defense. So he's not just getting there, he is the reason they're there. And that's something that you could argue we've never truly seen. This is the kind of stuff when you're playing Madden or you're playing 2K and you create a My Player and it's like, oh, we got to the finals or we got to the Super Bowl as a rookie. That stuff's not real. It only happens in your My Career, your My Player mode. Jaden Daniels is currently doing this in real life. And if you ask me today, now obviously you don't have enough accolades after 1 year, especially since the guy that he is also going up against has been to a Super Bowl. But if you ask me right now, heading into the NFC Championship game, who would I rather have, Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels? My answer is going to be Jaden Daniels. And that's because my opinion of Jalen Hurts has fallen and fallen. I think he's a good quarterback, but that's just it. Jaden Daniels is currently proving to be a future elite quarterback. And it's only going to get better for him because he's only going to learn more. He's a rookie. He's only had so much time in the NFL. He is going to continue to progress, get better, etc., etc. All that stuff's going to happen. His roster is only going to get better. This same roster won 4 games last year. If they added Marshawn Lattimore, they had a good draft, they're going to continue to draft well that you would hope and assume. And this team, again, 4 games last year, continue to do better. And it's not like next year, the difference between them and the Texans, because a lot of this stuff is also applicable for them. The Texans did so well, and their division wasn't good. They went from last place schedule to first place schedule. The Commanders aren't going to be on a first place schedule. They're going to be on a second place schedule. So they're still going to have 3 or 4 extra easier games a year that the Texans didn't have. That matters. There's also something to made man theory. Especially made man theory when you're under 25. So, Kobe Bryant, rest in peace, one of the greatest players ever. One of the things that Kobe always was his mentality. Never scared to take the last shot. Never scared, never scared. And some of that, I think, was created, and it was a bonus to Kobe because he had success very early on in his career. He was young when they had the three-peat. Now, he was still great during those years, but Shaq was obviously at the beginning of him, he was a better player. And because he already had, you could never look at Kobe and say, oh, he doesn't have the hardware to take that shot, or he doesn't have the quote unquote right to take that shot, right? Like a lot of these other guys, sometimes we think that, because they haven't had playoff success yet, they almost start to tense up, they start to clench their teeth. There's these things that we put on them and say, oh, well, they're not ready yet because we just haven't seen them do it. And that causes nerves, anxiety. These are still human beings, even though they're professional athletes. Jaden Daniels getting to the NFC Championship game, even potentially Super Bowl in his rookie year, you're going to always know that exists. Yes, the media is not going to, because even if the Commanders made it to the Super Bowl, if they were to lose, and then let's say they don't make it back for 4 or 5 years, media will spin narratives and say, oh, he doesn't have it anymore, blah, blah, blah. But the reality will be, Jaden Daniels will know day one, I was able to walk in here with a 4-win roster, get to 12 wins, get to a Super Bowl, or get to the NFC Championship game. You can't take that away from him. And that's huge for guys' confidence. That is huge for guys' psyche. Again, Kobe, say what you want, always missed this many shots. He never lacked the confidence. And he always had the understanding, I know what it takes to get here because I've done it. We watched, as great as LeBron was, we watched very early on LeBron, who hadn't quite figured it out yet, have these pressure type of moments and these stressful type of moments that he didn't quite overcome. when you get this successful and you get this level of success this early on in your career, that is huge going forward. And so you're already going to be the offensive rookie of the year. You are one of in the NFC, which doesn't have a true Superman, superhuman-esque quarterback. You know, go listen to group chat. We argued about I have Stafford in my top 5, but a lot of people probably wouldn't have him there. You are already going to be in consideration for the best quarterback in your conference. You already have playoff success. You've already accomplished all these things. You're only going to continue to expand and build on that. And again, you're not even playing the first place schedule because the Eagles won your division. You're still a wild card team. So you're going to get lesser games to differentiate you from, or lesser schedule, which differentiates you from the Texans from last year. You have more playoff success already than what the Texans had last year. Like, this story is not just incredible. I think this is going to be something that we continue to see going forward, moving on. You can't say enough nice things about the Commanders. Like, it's just an incredible season, an incredible, like, the whole story is amazing, right? With that, let's be serious. So let's be serious is something I'm trying to do, where it's some of these just quick hits that I'm not going to make into a full segment, but things that do need to be discussed. Now, early on in the day, so Ben Johnson got hired by the Chicago Bears to replace Matt Eberflus / Anthony Brown, the interim head coach. And this is the correct call. You weaken Detroit because you get their offensive coordinator. You get your own offensive head coach to pair with Caleb Williams, because we just got done talking about Jaden Daniels. Having your head coach be your offensive play caller with a young quarterback is huge, because then you never risk losing him, versus if Cliff Kingsbury now wants to pursue being head coach in the National Football League again, he has that opportunity because of the success him and Daniels have had, and that means Jaden Daniels is going to be on another offensive coordinator. Look at Baker Mayfield. Even though he just had a great season, you can see during Baker's height how he is with certain offensive coordinators. And so Ben going there, that makes a bunch of sense. The weird part of this was the Raiders, and I know there's a Tom Brady effect because he's part of the ownership group now. That was supposedly really high in consideration for Ben Johnson. Look, man, this Raiders job is one of the worst jobs like in the history of ever for professional sports. Your competition, and I know the NFC North is tough. But there's a difference here, and I'm going to explain it. The Raiders job is so bad because you have Andy Reid, Mahomes, Harbaugh, Herbert, and Sean Payton and Bo Nix. And say what you want about Bo Nix, second most touchdowns ever by a rookie quarterback, and Sean Payton is a proven all three. So Harbaugh's been to a Super Bowl, won national championship. Reid's obviously a part of the dynasty, multiple titles, and Sean Payton's won a Super Bowl. The Raiders have no quarterback, and those are the 3 head coaches in your division. That's tough. The NFC North, while yes, won more games this year, and this year was the best division, no Super Bowl winning head coach. Dan Campbell, who's a coach that we are now going to all reevaluate because he's losing his offense. He just lost his offensive coordinator. He's most likely losing his defensive coordinator. And can we rebuild up this coaching staff and get similar like results? So, unproven in that regard. Kevin O'Connell, who, yes, just had this magical season with Sam Darnold, but he's now going to a rookie quarterback, or essentially a rookie. J.J. McCarthy will be second year, but he spent all year hurt. And, the Packers, who, let's be honest, and I said this earlier in the year, we really don't know if Jordan Love is great. Jordan Love has great highs, and we have these moments, but we really don't know what's going to happen. And then you have Chicago, which, unlike the Raiders, say what you want about some functionality or dysfunction in the franchise as a whole, they have Caleb Williams. And so the Chicago job was always the better job. This Raiders job is going to be really rough to fill. It's going to be really, really rough to fill, especially because it would have been much different if they did get the top 2 to 3 pick and they had a chance, if you did think highly of Shador or Cam Ward or one of those guys coming out, and you could pair yourself with him. But this Raiders job is going to be really, really tough to fill. So Ben Johnson, shout out to him, went to Chicago Bears. The Bears coaching search, though, and I don't think this was not a serious coaching effort. And this is where I understand certain coaches get pissed off. And I wasn't supposed to say this long on Ben Johnson, but just hear me out. What is frustrating, look who the Bears interviewed during this process. Mike McCarthy, Eddie George, who I was unaware was even a coach. All these different guys, the Bears had an extensive coaching search, all to hire the guy who we all assumed was the best offensive coordinator on the market. And as the day after his team losing the playoffs, boom, he's their head coach. That's got to sit not very well with other owners and other coaches. We just hired all of these guys. Not really the owners, most of the coaches. We just interviewed 10 to 15 guys. And a lot of them were weird. And a lot of them, none of us thought were getting the job. But they still came and interviewed. We went through this process. All to hire the guy that we all thought in the first place. That's weird. This is why the Rooney Rule exists, by the way. Is because a lot of teams do this. And we're all going to look past it now because Ben Johnson got hired. But the reality is, this is why we have the Rooney Rule. And it's not really well enforced. It's not really well implemented because they get to go and interview all these different coaches just to go, we know who we want. It's the guy who, yes, has all the qualifications to be a head coach. No one's denying that. He was everyone's top head coaching candidate. Has been been in the top 2 or 3 head coaching candidates the last 2 years. Why did we interview Eddie George? Why did we interview Mike McCarthy? Why did we interview all these other guys? Like, that's weird, right? Like, we all can acknowledge, like, hey, something's wrong here. Something's wrong. Last thing, be serious. And this is from a quote from a player, and I'm not an NBA player basher for the most part. I love basketball. I love the NBA. Go look at my tweets. I watched Wizards, Pelicans back-to-back games. I watched Jazz, Pelicans on Friday night. Like, I love basketball. I watch a lot of bad games. SGA. SGA is probably going to be the MVP of the league. The Oklahoma City Thunder are probably going to win the Western Conference. There's a lot about the Thunder to love. There's a lot about SGA to like. There's also delusional and just lying to everybody and acting like... So SGA is a free throw type player, very reminiscent of Harden in his prime, reminiscent of other guys, but Harden's the biggest example or offender, however you look at it. And he scored 40 points against, or almost 40 points against the Cavs. Then he says, yeah, I really don't need free throws. James Harden once said this too. And James Harden had this very emphatic meeting. It was at the foul line. I think it was against the Nets. And he's like, well, tell him to stop fouling. Well, then stop foul baiting. Stop trying to control the referee. Same thing we talked about Mahomes in the opening segment. If you are a dude who manipulates the ref and gets extra free throws, we know you great. Just own it. Because if you were truly proud of it, and this may be my own opinion, we're going to have to break after this. If you were truly proud of it, you would own it with no reservations. You would say, I draw fouls. Carmelo Anthony was great at drawing fouls. We never looked at him the same way we looked at Harden. There are certain guys, Kobe Bryant could get guys up in the air, pump fakes, footwork. There was an art form to it, could draw fouls. We never looked at him. They looked at Harden. These guys who clearly are going for fouls, running into guys' chest, flopping all over the place. If you were so proud of the skill, you would just own it. Not go and say, I don't need free throws to score. Okay, then stop taking free throws. Stop embellishing everything to the refs. Play the game of basketball. Maybe that's an old man take. I don't know. But be serious, guys. Be fucking serious. With that coming back, we have to talk about the worst/best team that won this weekend. I don't know. I left a few of them. And then when we come back after that, Tony is going to join us. This is HardFoul Radio. Back momentarily. And we are back with hour two. Oh, pause about that. And we are back with hour two. This is HardFoul Radio. Appreciate everybody for tuning in as always. We do have to kind of move a little things around. Again, we got off to a late start today. It is Monday, top of the hour. We do need to go HardRight, HardLeft, middle of the hour. You guys know what I'm talking about. Hour two. That's how it goes. So HardRight, HardLeft. As always, we come in here, say a lot of stuff. We have to own up what we're right about and own up to what we're wrong about. So let's start with HardRight, which is the Eagles are the weirdest team to me because I would tell you, especially with the Lions injuries, and I've been on this, the Eagles are the best roster remaining in the NFL playoffs. I also have almost no faith in their quarterback or coach. It's so weird. This is a team, by all conventional rules, do everything wrong as a franchise, but maybe they're just so cutting edge that we can't understand that it's actually the correct thing to do. Like, the Eagles fire great coaches. The Eagles make weird moves with their quarterback. Like, listen, Nick Sirianni, I do not believe is, and I know his winning percentage says he's the greatest. He's like the second best winning percentage in the NFL, or third best winning percentage in the NFL since he became a coach, and it's only like Reed and McDermott have a higher one. And I'm like, I don't believe it. Sorry, I know what the stats say. I just don't believe it. And I'm watching that game, and I'm watching the Rams, and the Eagles, yes. Who stood out? Jalen Carter. Who stood out? The Eagles offensive line. Who stood out? Saquon Barkley. You know who didn't stand out, or maybe did, depending on which context you want to use? Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni. Even the Lions, who clearly had one of the best rosters in football, if not the best pre-injury, you understand the effect and impact of Dan Campbell. You can feel it. Jared Goff, who's on no one's top 5 list and probably isn't even on a lot of people's top 10 lists, you can see when he's playing great what it looks like. The Eagles never look like that. The Eagles, Jalen Hurts just looks good. Nick Sirianni's just okay. And why I'm doubling down on this, even though they won, is because I feel like, and this is probably the most insulting thing you can say, it is the most insulting thing you can say about a professional athlete or someone in this profession. I think I could do it. I think I could go out there and coach this Eagles team. They have so much talent. I think I could go out there and play quarterback for this Eagles team. They have so many great players on this roster. And while that's obviously false, it doesn't detract from the sense of what are the Eagles, like when you look, quarterback, head coach is one of the easiest ways to find out, is a team even good? Just start there, right? Say what you want. Let's take it on a personal level. The Broncos, are they even good? Can they just hit the good bar? And yes, they can, because their head coach and their quarterback are at least good, right? And maybe you think in their situation, and you can sway it because you could go, okay, one's great, one's just okay, and that gets them to good. However, I don't know. Hurts is just good, and he's at the low end of good. Sirianni's just good, and he's at the low end of good. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? I'm asking, like, yes, they won the game. Yes, they, excuse me, like, the things that we know are great about them, offensive line, defensive line, the receivers. What if I just put Dak Prescott on that team? We'd feel great about them going to the Super Bowl, and Dak, to most people, is just a middle-tier quarterback. If I put a great quarterback on this team, this is the same thing everyone's been saying about the Niners these last couple years. Oh, well, Purdy has Debo, and oh, he's got Ayuk, and oh, he's got this, and oh, he's got that, and all these things about Purdy. Jalen Hurts is just Brock Purdy, but cooler. Jalen Hurts is just Brock Purdy, but we like him more. 2 star receivers, star tight end, best offensive line in the sport, arguably the best defensive line in the sport, a star in the making, Quinyon Mitchell, a great veteran towards the end of his career, obviously, in Darius Slay, an all-pro linebacker. Like, they have everything. They have everything. And I wouldn't be shocked if they lost to Washington. And who's that go on? It's got to go on the 2 positions that we would normally say, if you're great at these, you're great. If you're good at these, you're good. I think they're just okay at both. My scale of like okay, good, great, exceptional, they're just on the okay part of it. And that's a problem. That's a huge problem. Yeah, they won. Congrats, Eagles. You won the game. Do you really feel great about where you stand right now? And with that, we transition into HardLeft, the thing we got the most wrong. I have been on, and I got to eat this. We're about to bring Tony on. I've said for the majority of the last couple months, Lamar's the MVP. If the Ravens played the Bills, I thought it would show. I was wrong. And Josh Allen has officially entered in. Josh Allen was great, but I did think even being great, I think he was getting overvalued a bit. But Josh Allen has entered that. He just gets it part of quarterbacking. Where he doesn't have to have the great numbers. He doesn't have to have the great statistical game. You just know he gets it. This is the thing, like, we got so infatuated in the NFL probably about a decade plus ago now where it was like guys who kept throwing for 300 yards were valued over guys who just got it. Peyton Manning has every record in the book, right? And Tom ended up taking him from, but Peyton was the stats guy during his prime in the NFL with the Colts. But what made Peyton more impressive wasn't throwing for 300 yards or throwing for 30 touchdowns. It was he could break down a defense. And Peyton said this on multiple times. This isn't like new information. If I see two high safeties or I see a certain defense that dictates running the ball, I'm going to run the ball. Just makes sense. If I see a defense that looks like it is geared to play the run, I'm going to throw the ball. He just understood it. That is something that a lot of guys, even guys that throw for all the yards in the world, just don't understand. Josh Allen now understands that. He does. Josh Allen he can just see a defense, he can see a scheme, and he figures it out. And he knows that's why his runs, they're no longer just let's quarterback run him 10 to 15 times because he's a great athlete. They're now selective runs. And he can change out of the play. And that's why they feel like, wow, it just feels like it's such a successful play. Every time he does it, it's 5 to 10 yards. That's because he understands when is the right time to do it. And some of that obviously is Joe Brady and these different offensive coordinators he's had. But he just gets it. His first run of becoming a really successful quarterback was heavily coach influenced. Brian Dable, there was a big factor there. And you saw the year post Dable, Josh had a lot of turnovers. He wasn't playing as great. He was still a great talent. And Buffalo won their division. He still put up good numbers. But even with the good numbers, you could tell something's just off. Now you can tell with less than great numbers, but he just understands the game. He just gets it. And that's a level of quarterbacking. When Will and Tony and I were discussing why I have Stafford in top 5, Stafford just gets it. He just knows when's the right time to throw. He knows when's the right area to throw to. And that's something stats and numbers can't tell you. Some guys just have a feel for it. And while I believe Lamar is still, in my opinion, the second best quarterback in football, and while I still believe he deserves the MVP, Josh showed yesterday there is a level of, this is Brady Manning for years. Brady just got it. He understood it. It took Peyton some time to get there. Peyton always had better numbers. Peyton always had better individual seasons, but Tom just, and even before we really knew who Tom was going to be long-term, he just figured out that Tom got it. And so, Josh Allen, I've called you great all year, but I said Lamar was better. I said Lamar was going to prove he was better in the playoffs. I was wrong. I'll own it. And it is Monday. Oh, shit, we dropped microphones. And it is Monday, so you know what time it is. My brother standing here, 6 foot tall, 229 pounds. Tony is in the building. How are we doing, man?
The reigning middleweight champion of the world. And what sport? You may never know. Could be boxing, could be martial arts. Hell no, that motherfucker had like 130 pounds.
Damn. Yo, I would be sick if I got dropped by somebody that way. Anyway. I'm not saying he couldn't do it, but like,
I firmly, if you listen in, I firmly believe you could do it. I'm trying to test you, bro. Hey man, it's recap Monday. Obviously
Hold on.
postseason.
That's one thing too before we get into that. I've seen Javonte Davis in person, and it's insane that somebody that size will like knock you clean the fuck out. It's like life is a crazy thing.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, you said he's 135?
He fights at 135, probably walking around about 140 or some shit like that.
Bro, I have clear, and again, this is not shit talking. I
135.
weigh dude by like over 100 pounds. And I'm sure he under 6 feet tall?
Yes, very much so.
So I'm like, I got over a foot and 100 pounds. I'm still like, hey, yo, bro, I don't want to smoke. Like, he walked down one side of the street, I'm going to walk on the other. It's cool. Like, I'm not here to fight you. Yeah, so we got divisional recap, obviously. And I'm going to give you the floor. But I made this comparison, and normally on Mondays we talk about, respectfully, the winners of the weekend until we get the Ravens a bit later in the show. I think the it factor is there on display for the two quarterbacks that both played yesterday. I think Josh Allen, whose stats weren't great, and Lamar. To me, and we got into this discussion on our group chat in terms of like why Matthew Stafford's top 5. To me, there's a certain thing when some quarterbacks you just realize get it. You don't have to look at their stats. You don't have to look at the numbers. You can just be like, you just watch them play and you're like, hey, they understand time, sequence, all that stuff. I don't think this game was a reprimanding of Lamar or even reprimanding of Harbaugh. But I'm going to give you the floor. Give us your breakdown, not only of yesterday's game, but just the season as a whole for the Ravens.
To break down the season, it was essentially what I thought it would be. I thought this team would go 13-4. They went 12-5. Started 0-2, so lost some games early, lost some games they shouldn't have lost. Happens. Overall, the season's not a success because they didn't go to the Super Bowl, and the roster's at a point where if you don't at least make it to the Super Bowl, it's not a successful season. That's just the bar that you're at. There is a lot to take from this season as far as Zach Orr is going to be fine. He's going to be just fine. I don't think Todd Monken is going to get a head coaching job just because of his age. So I do expect him to be back. and through it all, they play hard for John Harbaugh. If nothing else, they play very hard for him, and they give a fuck about him. If nothing else, he is going to be in the last year of his contract. I could see him being extended to keep this going. I could see if it goes a certain way, I could see a parting of ways at the end of it and moving on both sides. Excuse me.
You good?
But yeah, the season, I wouldn't say it's a successful season because of how it ended, but there was a lot of fun times, a lot of fun moments. It was great to see Derrick Henry in the Ravens uniform, especially play the way he played. It was great to see Zay and Bate take those steps. Isaiah likely played well. We'll get to the Mark Andrews of it all soon. The defense, to see them come around after how it started, that first 10 weeks, and then from weeks 11 to up to yesterday, play very well, play like a top-notch defense. That was encouraging just to see Zach Orr get his feet wet and kind of start to understand how things work as he went. That was dope. Kyle Hamilton just continuing to be better and better every year. Getting to yesterday, divisional round game, and the Ravens season comes to an end in a 27-25 defeat in Buffalo. That game went the way it couldn't have gone for the Ravens, and it went the way that the Bills wanted it to go. All week, I said the Ravens had to play clean. They had to protect the football. They had to win in the trenches. I said that on the show when we recorded yesterday. Sent that in text and everything. They didn't do that. 3 turnovers. They lost the turnover battle by 3. Buffalo didn't turn the ball over at all. They pretty much dominated the Ravens running the ball in that first half. Ravens cleaned it up second half to their fair play to them for that. Ravens didn't win the trenches. and the way that they should have on the defensive end. Offensively, first half, Buffalo worked pretty hard to stop the run. Second half, that broke open in a way that you always knew it would if the Ravens kept to it. Um, I I turned on my TV last night and I hear one of the late night sports center anchors saying, "How was Buffalo able to stop this Ravens run game?" And the Ravens ran for 176 yards at 6 yards a pop. So shout out to them for that. Um,
Man,
shout out to them for
Sports Center
that.
used to be journalist.
Uh, so to get into the game, it starts off, Ravens come out pretty much instantly. Just they go right down and score, touchdown to bait, open the game the way you like it to go. Buffalo gets the ball, you get him the 3rd and 10. Allen, deep shot to Khalil Shakir. I think it was a pass off from Marlon to Brandon Stevens, who gives up the play. And that's someone who I don't expect to be a Raven again next season. I love B. Steve coming into this year. He's been a really good Raven. His rookie year, coming from safety to corner. He's a safety in college. They put him at corner. He learned that as his rookie year went by, 2021. You saw the progression, 2022. Saw the progression. He still had his struggles as a sophomore, but you saw it. Last year in 2023 under Mike McDonald, he was fantastic. He was the Ravens' best corner. He could have been a Pro Bowler. He played great. And for whatever reason this year, it fell apart for him. It fell apart in a big way for him. He was getting targeted, and it really started in week 2 against the Raiders. Like he was just getting beat up by Devontae Adams and Gardner Minshew, and they just attacked him, attacked him, attacked him. And I think that stuck with him throughout the year. And it reared his head last night. So you give up the 3rd and 10. If you could have went 3 and out right there to begin the game, get the ball back to Lamar after getting a quick touchdown, I thought that would have really bode well for the Ravens if they could have went up 10-0, 14-0. Josh Allen converts to 4th and 2 on that first drive. They go down, score 7-7. Like, okay, it's not ideal. You would have much preferred the 3 and out, but can live with it. Tie ball game, they at home, whatever. Lamar comes out second drive. He throws the bad pick. That's when you know it's about to start. So Buffalo does not score. Defense gets a stop. Buffalo punts. No harm, no foul. The Lamar turnover does not hurt you. It evens out in the wash. Ravens come back out. They don't score. I think they actually fumble on that next drive. Buffalo. No, that's not the fumble. Buffalo. They don't score though. Buffalo gets the ball. I'll speed through this a little bit. All in all, it is 21-10 at half. Because Lamar fumbles the ball, Buffalo returns it into their red zone. They convert. They convert third down on that. I think it was, yeah, they convert. They convert third down, convert fourth down. Josh runs it in. They go up 21-10 before the half. Going into halftime, you're like, okay, this, and before that, and a big play before that, when Buffalo goes up 14-7, the Ravens come back out. Lamar hits bait, 40-yard pass to get to the Ravens 2. The plays after that is the only issue I have with coaching last night. I thought the coaching was really well last night. I have nothing to say about John Harbaugh at all. His name will not come up in this. The only issue I have with coaching last night is that you give it to Derrick Henry, he gets stopped. He gets stopped, I think, for maybe 1 or 2 yards. That puts it on a 3. Next play is a throw. Lamar gets sacked. Next play, it's a sack again. You have to run the ball 3 straight times with Derrick Henry there. Worst case scenario, they start at the 1. But you have to try to score touchdowns there. You don't have room. You can't survive field goals in this spot. So second half, Ravens come out, they get a stop. They get the ball back. They cannot score. 21-13. Shout out to Justin Tucker. Another thing I want to point out, Tuck figuring it out. Not missing any kicks to end his season. That was dope. They go up 21-13. Get the ball back. Buffalo does not score again. It is now a 21-16 game. You have to score touchdowns. Buffalo gets a field goal. It's 24-16. You're down 8. Okay. Ravens get the ball. Was it 24? It was 24-18, actually. Derrick Henry scored. It wasn't 24-16. That's my bad. It was 24-18. Derrick Henry did score. Um, Derrick Henry scored. And this is where we get into how the game kind of came apart there. Ravens are driving to take the lead at 24-18. Lamar hits Mark Andrews, finds a soft spot in the zone, hits him for a big pickup. Mark Andrews does not cut up field as he normally would. He tries to juke out. Terrell Bernard punches the ball out. Buffalo gets the ball back. They take a 27 to 9. Was it? What was it was 27-19, I believe, because the Ravens did not convert their earlier 2-point conversion.
Yeah.
So it's a 27-19 game. After the Ravens defense, to their credit, they get another stop. They keep it within striking distance.
Mhm.
The first missed 2-point conversion I'll talk about really quickly. That was tough because I think if Lamar just waits one more second, they convert that. And also in that spot, you're not mad at them taking the 2. You also look at it and say, damn, if they would have got the 1, then in the end, they only need the extra point to tie it. But that's hindsight. Can't really do nothing about it. That's okay.
Mhm.
So the Ravens get the ball back. They have to drive about 80 yards, I believe, to score and go for the 2-point conversion. Rashad Bateman on this drive gets hurt. Lamar Jackson's out there with Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews, Steven Sims, Anthony Miller, and Tylan Wallace, along with Justice Hill, because obviously Derrick Henry's not going to be in there. You have to throw the ball at this point. Lamar puts together a 80-yard drive. He hits a strike to Isaiah Likely over the middle for about 20-yard touchdown, 25-yard touchdown. That puts the Ravens down 2. The 2-point conversion play is great. It's one that they've run a few different times over the years. It's drawn up really well. Got a few guys open, but in that spot, 8 is going to go to 89. He's going to go to 89. And if you ask anybody going into that game, who would you want in that spot? I guarantee you they would have said 89 as well. Don't let them tell you twice. So the play goes out. It's a quarterback sweep out to the right side of the offense. They're bunched up right, so that's where they're going. Mark Andrews, he gets a rub there in between the routes. He gets open. He's kind of slipping down a little bit, but he still has good footing. At worst, if he falls, he's going to fall backwards into the end zone. Lamar puts it on him. You'll hear some argument if it could have been a better throw or not, whatever. Lamar puts it on him. It's between the 8 and the 9. It looks like Mark Andrews catches the ball. He's falling, slipping. Ball comes out, goes out of bounds. Ravens essentially lose the game there. They only have one timeout. Can't really do much at that point. And that's the game. So, to the Mark Andrews of it all, he'll get a lot of slander. He'll get a lot of shit over the offseason. It's already started. I'll say this. He's a reason the Ravens lost the game. Lamar Jackson is a reason the Ravens lost the game. I don't have anything to say further than that because Mark Andrews not only had one of the best seasons of his career, he's the franchise leader in touchdowns. The Ravens would not be in these positions they are to compete for titles without Mark Andrews. And he's done way too much. He's done way too much for me to give him any slander beyond he cost the game last night. The Ravens lost a 2-point game because they surrendered a fumble that gave up 7 points and another fumble that gave up 3 points. 10 points in turnovers. You lost the game by 2. That's all you got to say. The Lamar Jackson fumble should not have happened. He should have went down, but that's Lamar trying to be Lamar. You live with it and you die by it. The Mark Andrews fumble should not have happened, but it did. There's nothing you can do about it. It's a crazy play. Mark Andrews isn't somebody to fumble. He's not somebody to drop to drop passes, in that spot. He'll drop a pass here and there, it happens, but in that spot, he's not one to drop those passes. Um, the defense, they got going too late. They got going too late, and by that time, it was too much of a hole to kind of dig themselves out of on the road in Buffalo in that spot against a good team. Buffalo played clean. They ran the ball. They established physicality early, and they did what they were supposed to do. They made the right plays. They played clean football. You win this time of year by playing clean, and I said it once, said 100 times. The Ravens can only beat themselves. You will never, under Lamar Jackson, I truly believe you will never see a team just go out there and beat the Ravens. The Ravens have to beat themselves. And it showed last night. It showed last night. The turnovers, the anxious play, the inability to stop the run early, it all reared its head, and you just don't want that to happen. I said they beat Pittsburgh easily if they just play clean, stay ahead of the sticks, you don't turn the ball over. They did that. They beat the shit out of Pittsburgh. I said yesterday, if they just play clean, they will win the game. I have no worries about them other than them just playing a clean game. And they didn't do it. And now they find themselves at a crossroads. A really talented team that clearly can't get over the hump as constructed. What do you change? Who do you bring in? Who do you ship out? You got questions to answer, but you still have a foundation there that gets you to that point. No matter what anyone may say, you always want to be in that point. So you have to say what gets us over just getting here, because that is no longer good enough.
No, I think all that. Excuse me. I think I understand. I get everything you're saying. I agree with it. I will say, primarily talking about the Ravens today, is I think what I learned from a lot of if you're in sports media, and I'm not saying that people are ever above criticism or that you can't say, just similar to what Tony said, like Lamar cost the game, Mark Andrews cost the game. If your thing is though you can't wait to slander someone, and there was a lot of that going on last night, that's nasty.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, to that same point, and this is I think my biggest takeaway I got from the game, Lamar will be the easiest to dissect or criticize player ever, and that's solely because of greatness. It's similar to I've been saying this last couple of weeks of like stylistically they're not the same, but career paths. Lamar and Peyton Manning are really similar. And Peyton got a lot of extra criticism because of the way Peyton played football, where he's doing all these audibles at the line of scrimmage, where he's doing, like he's putting guys into place. So it's not just you made the wrong play. It's almost like we can see you call the wrong play and then execute it incorrectly. So we didn't even put a lot of Peyton struggles on his coaches. Because Lamar is the first guy to truly be electric passing and running, the argument's always going to be there. Oh, the Ravens throw too much. Oh, the Ravens ran too much. That's always going to exist when you have the most unique quarterback in the history of the sport, excuse me, who can do both at this high of a level. When you have statistically prime Aaron Rodgers and on the side, he's just a Pro Bowl running back. It's like, we've never seen this. And so you can always say, I saw a lot of people this morning. It's like, oh, the game plan, this game plan, them. Like, you can always criticize their game plan, especially when you put Derrick Henry next to him, who's a Hall of Fame running back who had almost 2,000 yards. I'm like, there's technically no bad play, but it almost hurts them because there's really no good play. Because you can always argue, oh, if it's only a 3-yard Henry run, that could have been a 5-yard Lamar pass. That's just always going to exist with him. And that was one of my biggest takeaways I had from the game. The Ravens, obviously, again, and I know there's different expectations based on your roster, but there's not a lot of teams consistently going to the divisional round. When you're part of that final 8, that in itself is a good season. To what degree? I will ask, so you've been and I know you just said you won't give Harbaugh any shit for last night's game, but you have been of the opinion that, like, it's still his time has run its course. As the season is now over, do you still feel like, for you personally, would you extend John Harbaugh after this final season?
It's tough to say because they lost games in the regular season that was clearly due to the lack of adjustments by Harbs, but they won a lot of games because Harbs knows when to stay out the way. And that's where you're at like a weird crossroad with is like, okay, do you want the more involved coach that, calls the plays or that's just more involved in the game plan of it all and kind of has more say into what you're doing? Or do you want the coach that's going to put good coordinators in position to execute a game plan for the players that you've provided them with to go out there and get the job done? And you know, it's it's a tricky thing. I've looking at what he did against Pittsburgh the last two times they played him, looking at how he coached that game last night. I can say I'm at a point where if John Harbaugh is announced to be extended as the Ravens head coach, I can't really have any problem with that. If it is decided that, hey, we're going to move on from John Harbaugh, he's going to go do his own thing. We're going to try to regroup here with Zach or a different person from outside the building. I can't have a problem with that either. I can really say I'm fine with either route. He didn't lose that game last night. And you can say, hey, the Ravens lost some games that they shouldn't have lost. If they wouldn't have lost those games, maybe they're playing in Baltimore last night instead of Buffalo. That's fair, but they weren't, and they still had a chance to win. So woulda, shoulda, coulda, shoulda. Like you had what you had. You were a 12-5 team that played. You were the 3 seed that had to go play the 2 seed, and you had a shot to win the game at the end, and you didn't. And you didn't win that game not because you weren't talented enough, not because you weren't good enough, not because you were outcoached. You lost that game because the players on the field made mistakes that they should not make in those moments, and you lost. So the John Harbaugh of it all, I'm fine either way it goes. Like I said, they play hard for him. The Ravens don't go out there and just play lazy football. They don't play I don't give a fuck football. They don't play I don't care football. Like they are always motivated to win. They're always motivated to play hard. Do they fuck up? Do they make mistakes? Do they play in a manner that they shouldn't? For sure. But it's never due to a lack of good intention. And if you're going to root for a team, the last thing you want is to spend your time on a Sunday or a Thursday or a Monday watching a team that you know does not give a fuck. Because at that point, why am I wasting my time watching? Because I'm doing this for free.
That's a fact. That's a fact. We got a slight time restrictions. We got to get you in one last question, and I know it's the narrative, and this isn't my thought process, but I'll ask you as someone who watches team on a day-to-day basis. Do you think, obviously Mahomes is the standard right now,
Mm-hmm.
do you think that essentially right now we have one active quarterback that has a win against Mahomes, and that's just Joe Burrow? Does Lamar, let's say in the next 3 years, get a playoff win and over the hump against Mahomes? I think he could beat Josh Allen in the playoffs. I know last year they lost, but I don't think that's a gap. And I don't think in most people's mind they think that's a gap. But do you think at some point in the next 3 years, during what should be his normal prime, obviously athletes are playing longer nowadays, but
Mm-hmm.
within those 3 years, do you think the Ravens get over the Chiefs?
If it comes down to them having to play them over the next few years, I do think he can get it done. I think it's inevitable that he'll get over that hump. It's just a matter of a win. He's just too good. I think it is coming, and he just has to continue to get better as he's doing. He has to stop putting so much pressure on winning the Super Bowl.
Mhm.
It's these moments are happening because he's telling you that I am putting this stress on myself to win this game, and you haven't even gotten there yet. So you're operating 4 months to get to a point. You're operating 4 months with so much stress to get to a point where there's even more stress. And I don't think that's just healthy for him. That's not healthy for any human in any line of work. So I don't for at someone at the top of their field, I don't think it's healthy at all for him to keep doing this. I think he can get over the hump. I think they can beat that team. Um, I, I personally am fine with them losing last night because I thought they would have. I don't think they would have looked good at all next Sunday. I think it would have been very tough for them. So I am fine with them lose. Now, how they lost is like tough, but if they're going to lose, I'd rather they lose yesterday than to lose again to Mahomes because it's just like, what? It takes so much out of you. Like it just takes so much out
You
of you to
telling
keep.
me? You
So it's
telling
like
me?
I'm okay that they lost yesterday. It's like I'd rather that than the alternative. But he can get it done against Mahomes, and I think he will get it done. It's just you got to go through shit. I know we got to get out of here, and I'll say this: Flacco had to Flacco had to go to Pittsburgh his rookie season, one game away from the Super Bowl, and get very humbled. He had to go to Indianapolis the next year and get his doors blown off by the eventual AFC champion. He went into Pittsburgh again his third year and had to blow a double-digit lead to the Steelers in the second half of the divisional round, one game away from a home playoff game because they would have played the Jets. He had
That's
to
tough.
watch Lee Evans. He had to watch Lee Evans, a home AFC championship game. He had to go to New England, play Tom Brady, watch Lee Evans drop the game-winning touchdown, watch Billy Cundiff miss the game-tying touchdown, to game-tying field goal to go to the Super Bowl. You sometimes you just gotta go through hurtful shit for it all to come together.
This is why I love. For all of you out there that are like tweeting like, oh, it should be like normalized switching sports fandoms. That's why you can't do that shit, because that right there, those last 30 seconds, that's someone who's been a fan of a team, experienced real pain, real high moments, and you just can't beat that shit. You just can't beat. Again, Denver had its best season in a decade. And in the grand scheme of things, and like Denver's got Super Bowls, and so in the grand scheme of the franchise, it's not one of their 10 best seasons. It's probably not one of their 20 best seasons. But you've lost your mind if you don't think someone like me, who's went through the last 9 years of hell, didn't have a great time this season. Whatever people want to say about the quarterback, the roster, the coach, like you just can't beat those kind of moments. Normalize switching sports teams, my ass. Appreciate you as always, man. I just gotta get that out there. Like you bring up Lee Evans and Billy Cundiff. Like I thought of Ebenezer Ekimon yesterday. Like it's just sports is a mental illness. Man, I fucking love it. We'll catch it. Don't forget to check out